You've been really, again, I keep calling you the center point, but of this institutional knowledge, there's been 4 or 5 executive directors have circulated through, and
I'm not the executive director now, to be clear.
No.
Jory Bennett, I do have a boss. I don't just get to do whatever I want.
No,
I'll take your praise, but I do want to.
No, but you've been at that point, which really was the point for the public to sort of react to, artists to come to with their concerns. That was you. So that's different than being in the back rooms and sort of shaking hands and making, trying to sell the idea of ArtPrize as a sponsorship or underwriting opportunity. But that, I can't imagine, again, I'll get off the compliments, but like the ArtPrize without sort of you being that steady person in that role, I can't think of it someone, especially because of how you've executed it, but in the rearview mirror, I don't really know how, if there'd been somebody a little more combative and explosive and took a different tone with the public, it could have easily been not as successful and more misunderstood and all that stuff.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
And it's perennially misunderstood anyway. There's something about ArtPrize as kind of a troublemaker. As an institution.
It's a rabble-rouser.
A rabble-rouser thing
that's
always...
a Midwestern term, isn't it?
Probably.
We're a whippersnapper.
It always really appealed to me, and because as a art student long ago, learning about art history and learning about the avant-garde and different kind of weird experiments that people were trying, especially throughout the 20th century, those were always the people that I was like, that really stuck with me. Like, oh my gosh, you can do that?
Yeah.
I
had this... there's this artist, Bruce Nauman, who I remember this art history professor I had said that Bruce Nauman is a gadfly. Like a gadfly is like
a cool word.
It's like a tiny animal, but it bites the cow in the butt, and the cow moves. It has to move, right? Like he's just like this instigator. And I think that Bruce Nauman is even more than that. And I think that there's a lot going on in his work, but there is an element of that that's really true. And I've always really admired that. And I've always thought well, why can't there be like museums that have a clear sort of centuries-long mission of the preservation of culture, but why can't there also be this ecosystem of other art organizations that are just like nimble and they're crazy and they're like, we have this nutso idea and we're going to do this and we're going to do that.
The art world's been it's faster now because of organizations like ArtPrize, but they've been a little reluctant to release the reins of power and sort of like different thinking about art is, it's institutionally kind of protected that way.
Sure.
And it feels...
And in some ways it should be.
Yeah.
Because the preservation mission of museums is super important. Yeah. And we wouldn't know about Bruce Nauman if there weren't institutions preserving even the crazy stuff he did that's like hard to preserve because it's just like a weird videotape he made in 1978 or something.
Right.
And it's going to decay. But and so we need that. But I think that I'm interested in an art world that has a bunch of different experiments happening not only at the artist level but at the institution level, where there's institutions that are willing to be like, what if we tried this and what if we tried this?
Yeah.
And I think that's a sign of like a healthy thing, and it's because it's always seemed so weirdly incongruous to me where you have these institutions that support artists that are just knocking down barriers left and right, and they're just like nothing is sacred, and the artists are just like so bold in that way, and then the people supporting them are like the most straight and narrow.
Yeah. For sure.
And they have one way of working.
Yes.
And I'm like, did you learn anything from these artists that you venerate so that like their whole thing is about like
they're basically
this kind of like kill your idols
the bird
approach
to everybody and everything that's in power, right?
Right.
Like so much of art is reacting to constraints and power structures and wealth and any kind of hoarding of ideas or culture.
Totally.
This Full Exposure podcast episode has been made possible through the support of Metro Health, University of Michigan Health, and Dr. Peter Hahn, who believe that creativity and the arts are essential to a rich, healthy, and fulfilling life.